Hi, welcome to Lawful Rebel TV. This is just an update to address a few questions, or a particular question I should say, that's been put to me by several listeners, which is, why do I focus so much on health, thinking and a philosophy of reason? So, in a nutshell, what's the goal? The goal is to thrive. That's what I aim to do, and that's what I aim to share, is the essential information that we all need to know to be able to thrive, not just get by or cope, but to really thrive. And that means not even just being successful, making lots of money, if we then develop a chronic disease. So that is the goal. Everybody is also aware that today, in the current context, ill health is epidemic. We have got huge epidemics of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, dementia. Everybody's sick. I know so many friends and relations that are either suffering from ill health or who have died of cancer and these dreadful diseases. So this is part of the context in which we're trying to thrive. And further to this, it's fairly self-evident that health is a fundamental prerequisite for thriving. In order to have that fully successful life on earth, you need a fully functioning body, because it's the vehicle of our experience. Alongside this, of course, we need a fully functioning mind. We need mental acuity, because thinking is key. Our minds are what manage our lives. Every decision we make is made with our mind. Even if we choose to abdicate responsibility for thinking and we just look around and we follow others, that is still a decision that we've made, and we can't escape the consequences of that. So thinking, our ability to think rationally and effectively, is absolutely critical in determining the outcomes in our lives, and therefore thriving is determined by our degree of effective thinking. Arguably, thinking is even more important than health, because in order to arrive at the techniques that are necessary to put into place, in order to know what causes to initiate to enjoy the effect that is health, we need to be able to think rationally. We need to be able to connect accurately with reality. So fundamental to all of this is thinking, and thinking rationally, and therefore a philosophy of reason. So another part of the context of today is that propaganda and misinformation are a fact of life. They are a part of the context of modern living. Propaganda and misinformation in the political realm and in the manipulation of populations has been around for at least centuries, with Niccolo Machiavelli back in 1513 writing his book The Prince. Fast forward a few hundred years to Edward Bernays literally writing the book Propaganda and becoming the father of modern PR. And I'm sure almost everybody's aware that politics today is rife with sophistry and half-baked arguments, emotional appeals, and everyone is trying to get us to think certain things to affect our behavior. So it's very important to be aware of this context, and this is also where thinking comes in. Thinking is effectively an antidote for propaganda and manipulations. The extent to which we can think for ourselves is the extent to which we are armed and equipped to be able to discern truth from untruth. And this is one of the key challenges that faces us today in our efforts to thrive. So part and parcel of this context of ubiquitous propaganda and disinformation, it necessitates the habit of questioning assumptions, and particularly questioning our natural tendency to appeal to authority. We have to, in some respects, you could say, sort of grow up past this into intellectual sovereignty and thinking for ourselves, because so much of the official guidance these days is simply incorrect. Why it is incorrect and who's behind it and all that is somewhat irrelevant, but it is proven to be incorrect. Whether they are myths such as saturated fat in your diet is harmful to you, cholesterol gives you heart disease, all these sorts of things, down to the bogus terrorism threat, and all of these factors, we can cut through all of this if we are questioning assumptions and thinking for ourselves. Effective thinking also rests on 4 very important philosophical assumptions, which are being more and more watered down these days, and it's very important to accept consciously that we live in an objective reality. We live in a cause and effect universe, cause and effect reality, if you like. And in order to think effectively, we simply have to have the philosophical premise that reality is an objective absolute. The only other alternative to this is that reality is subjective, if you like. There's the fundamental primacy of consciousness versus the primacy of existence, and it's the objective reality theory is that it is the primacy of existence that is real. Things are what they are. If we tend to drift into the subjective and believe that we create our own reality, the danger is we undermine the necessity and the motivation to accurately connect with reality. Because if it's whatever we make it out to be, if it's whatever we make up, then by definition there is no need to identify correctly an objective reality, which is the purpose of thinking. So that's the first philosophical premise that's very important to give us the motivation for accurate thinking, to uncover truth being that which correlates with reality. And of course, to be healthy, we have to identify the facts of reality that lead to us experiencing health. The second philosophical point is that reason is our only means to knowledge. Reason as opposed to mysticism. Reason as in using empiricism and facts to discover truth and verify truth, as opposed to hearsay, as opposed to that appeal to authority, as opposed to any other source of mysticism, which is accepting things as true without being able to verify them, without any proof and reality, without being able to use our human senses to identify any means of verification. This is essentially what mysticism is, and it's surprisingly dominant. So the third philosophical premise is also that reality is knowable. If we don't accept that reality is knowable, then why would we bother thinking? That another factor that scuppers any incentive to think and know truth. If you can't know it, why bother? The fourth philosophical premise is that we are beings of volitional consciousness. This means we have free will. We need to decide to think. We have to switch ourselves on. It doesn't happen automatically. Human beings have no automatic means of knowledge until they decide that they want to know. This is what it means to recognize that we are beings of volitional consciousness. So these 4 philosophical assumptions, to recap: 1, reality is objective, that things are what they are, independent of our consciousness. Number 2, that reason is our only means of knowledge. Number 3, that reality is knowable. And number 4, that we have free will. We have to switch ourselves on. We have to want to know. We have to be proactive. These 4 points are essential to us cracking the modern day challenge, if you like, of figuring out what's true and what isn't. Because although we live in the information age, we're also awash with disinformation, and as mentioned previously, propaganda is ubiquitous. So I hope that helps explain things. Health is absolutely key to our thriving. We need to think in order to achieve health, and we need to think in order to manage our lives successfully. And effective thinking and effective action rests upon a philosophy of reason. Hope you got some value from this, and I hope you'll join me again. Thank you.
Lawful rebel,
universal cause.
lawful rebel,
Because my freedom is yours.
lawful rebel,
Rise and be man. Extraordinary man.
lawful rebel,
With a purposeful cause.
lawful rebel,
'Cause active minds open doors.
lawful rebel,
Doing what I can. You see me where I stand.